This is my farm in the forest. But it wasn't always like this. I managed to create my own farm, which now brings in tens of thousands of dollars. We'll take on all kinds of work, from working on our own field to managing enterprises. If you're interested, subscribe to the channel and enjoy watching. After waiting out the winter, we returned to work. First, I wanted to enhance our property by building a dock by the lake, which cost us $5,000. After that, I immediately constructed a large shed for our equipment, and I also set up a repair pit near the house, which will come in handy later. We spent a total of $10,000 on all of this. After all the constructions, I began moving all the equipment under the shed. I decided to leave the tractor outside under the roof since it's always in use, while I parked the car in the repair pit to keep it out of the way, as I hardly use it now. Our property looks quite beautiful now. Let's check our fields and production next. First, we'll head to our field, where we see that the wheat has survived the winter quite well, despite the harsh conditions, and it seems it will soon be ready for harvest. Now let's make our way to the sawmill. As we approached, the results of its work immediately caught our eye. There were quite a few boards, both long and short. Let's not waste any time and go sell them. We'll take the tractor with the trailer and start loading it up, beginning with the long boards. After loading the boards and securing them with straps, we set off to the sales point, specifically to the abandoned amusement park that is currently being restored and needs materials. Upon arriving and selling the boards, we received almost $50,000, which is quite pleasing. Now it's time to go back for the second batch, but this time for the short boards. Upon returning and loading all the boards we had, we head back to the same park. From their sale, we earn even more, $60,000, which is simply amazing. Now, feeling satisfied with the profit, we return home. Arriving at the property, I immediately thought that since we have such a good income from production, we should replenish its wood storage. Nearby the sawmill, there was a large sequoia, and we decided to cut it down. First, we saw off all the branches and begin to manually carry them to the sawmill. After cutting off all the branches, we start sawing the tree trunk into small yet massive logs. After cutting the entire trunk, and since we can't carry these heavy logs by hand, we go to get the tractor, to which we attach a winch and drive it to the sawmill. Then, we plant the winch into the ground and pull it towards the freshly cut logs, where we attach 2 logs and secure them tightly. After that, we return to the tractor and begin to pull them straight to the sawmill. We do this a couple more times, and soon we have all the wood in storage. This way, we managed to gather 17,000 liters of wood. Now we can start producing boards, but this time only short ones, as they sell for a higher price. I thought about it and decided to try a new way of earning money, namely exporting wood. But first, we need to head to the store, so we jump into the tractor and set off. Upon arrival, we buy a trailer for transporting containers for $17,000. And along with it, we get the container itself, which costs an additional $4,000. After securing the container to the trailer, we head to the forest. Finding a nice clearing, we park our trailer, open the container, and then start cutting down trees. After clearing them of branches, we saw them into relatively straight logs and begin stacking them in the container. To do this, we had to cut down the entire clearing, which now looks empty, but it's okay. We will plant new trees here and use them for export as well. After filling the container, we close it and head to the shipping point. There was quite a lot of wood in the container, specifically 21,000 liters. So driving uphill was tough, but we managed it. Upon arriving at the shipping point, we sold the container for $35,000, which is pretty good, and most importantly, covered our expenses for this venture. After selling the wood, we return home to change the trailer. Then we head to the clearing where we previously cut down all the trees. Upon arriving, we build a small ranger's hut and a toolbox for planting trees, all of which costs us $6,000. Now we head to the store where we buy 4 pallets of conifer saplings and go back to the ranger's hut to unload them. We won't be planting today since it's already evening and will soon get dark, so we park the tractor and go to rest. The next morning, I woke up and first went to check how our sawmill was doing. Seeing that a few new pallets of boards had appeared overnight, I happily hopped into the tractor, attached the trailer, and headed to the store for a container to earn a little more money. After buying and securing it, I went looking for suitable trees, and not far from our farm, right by the road, I found some tall pines. After cutting down the young pines and one dry trunk, I began preparing them for sawing, removing all the branches and starting to cut them into the parts we need. After filling the container, we go to sell it, where we earn $40,000. $50, which is quite pleasing. After the sale, we head to the site for planting the new trees. Upon arriving at the site, we take a shovel and a bag for the saplings. Then we take the saplings out of the wooden boxes and start planting them evenly across the entire area of our clearing. After planting about a dozen trees in the clearing, we also begin to plant them by the shore, near the bridge and along the road where we had previously cut down trees for sale to the sawmill. Once we finished with that, I noticed that there were a couple of logs that didn't fit in the container. So let's cut them into smaller pieces and take them to the sawmill. After cutting and loading them, we secure them with straps and take them for sale, where we get only $3,000 for them. Yes, it's not much, but at least they won't be lying around uselessly. Just then, it started to rain, and since I had completed all the work I wanted to do, we can head home to wait out the rain. The rain lasted a long time, so I went to sleep, and when I woke up in the morning, I saw that our harvest was ripe and ready for collection. Therefore, we set out to the store to buy a combine. We hitchhiked to get there, and after walking down to the highway, we waited for a ride. After a couple of minutes, someone stopped and agreed to take us to the store, and in gratitude, I gave him $50 for gas. We entered the store and bought a combine for $30,000, along with a header for an additional $4,000. After attaching the header to the combine, we headed back to our plot. Upon arriving, we wasted no time and got straight to work. After half an hour, the combine's storage was filled with wheat, so we rushed to get the tractor and trailer. But first, we needed to put the sides on the trailer. Having done that, we went to the combine to harvest the crop. Another half hour later, we had collected the entire harvest, totaling 4,000 liters of wheat. Since we had nowhere to put it, let's try selling it to find out how much we can earn and if it's worthwhile at all. Upon arriving at the sales point, we open the right side of the trailer and start unloading the wheat. We received only $3,000 for it. I think that by the next harvest, we will already have animals and we will grow wheat for them, but not for sale. Feeling disappointed, I went home and saw that a batch of boards was ready for sale. So we removed the sides from the trailer and started loading them. After loading all the boards, we secured them with straps and headed to the sales point. Arriving again at the amusement park, we sold the boards, but not all of them, for a total of $40,000. There's another place nearby where I think the boards would be useful. Let's head there. Upon arriving at the boat workshop, they happily bought the remaining boards from us, paying $20,000 for them. Having earned a decent amount of money, we returned home. Once home, I decided to check how much wood was left at the sawmill, and as you can see, there isn't much left here, so it wouldn't hurt to replenish our wood supplies. I remembered that at the beginning of our life here, I had cut down a huge sequoia, but back then I didn't have the means to move those enormous logs, so I decided to leave them for better times. But now the time has come. We have a winch and a more powerful tractor than before, but I still think we need to cut the logs in half. After cutting them, I also felled another unnecessary tree. Then we got into the tractor and attached the winch to it. First, we need to pull the logs up, and then we can transport them to the sawmill. So we anchored the winch in the ground, attached the logs, and pulled them up. After 30 minutes, all the logs were up with us. Since our winch isn't long enough to reach the logs directly from the sawmill, we needed to pull them a bit closer. After dragging the logs closer to the sawmill, we drove the tractor into the sawmill itself and began pulling the logs in. After moving the last log, we saw that we managed to fill our storage with 36,000 liters, which is very pleasing. And since a long workday is done for today, we can go rest. Waking up early in the morning, I rushed to our harvested field and realized that we had received quite a small yield, so I wanted to expand our field. First, we need to clear all the stones nearby, so we jumped into the loader, attached the jackhammer, and headed to the stones. We lowered and started the jackhammer, waiting for the stone to break into small pieces. After removing all the stones, we began cutting down the trees that were in the way of expanding our field. After felling all the trees and clearing them of branches, we took the tractor and went to them. We cut them into logs and started loading them into the tractor's trailer. Once the trailer was full, we secured the logs with straps and headed to the sales point, where we earned $15,000 from selling those logs. We returned to the field and started gathering all the logs and branches that were left. After collecting them, we headed to the sawmill and sold them for another $5,000. Upon returning, we leveled the ground and put up a fence. Having leveled the area we needed, it would be good to plow the soil since the planting season would be here soon. But I think we will need a new subsoiler. So we didn't waste any time, got into the tractor, attached the subsoiler, and went to the store. Upon arriving at the store, we first sold our old subsoiler for $400 and then bought a new, larger one for $10,000. We attached it and returned to the field. Upon arrival, we immediately got to work. First, we marked the boundaries of our field, and only after that did we start filling it in. After an hour, our new field was completely ready. After that, I decided to take the brush cutter and tidy up the area since it had overgrown with grass and tall bushes. Now that all the work is done, I have long wanted to expand our farm but didn't know how. I decided to invite a crew of workers to help with this, clearly not for free. They have just arrived, and after explaining what I wanted and showing them the scope of work, the workers agreed to level the land and remove the trees, asking for $50,000 in return. Well, since we have the money, why not agree? They said I could go rest and not worry about anything, and by morning they would have everything done, so we went to wait for the morning of the following day. Waking up early in the morning, I was greeted by a pleasant surprise, a perfectly level area where I could do whatever I wanted, but more on that later. Today, our first task was to plant the crop since it was wheat season, and we still had some from the last season. So we wasted no time, jumped into the tractor, attached the seeder, and got to work. After an hour and a half, our field was completely sown with wheat. Now it was time to work on developing the new area. I had long thought about how to expand our production, so I thought it would be nice to build a couple of greenhouses. After building 3 small greenhouses and fencing in our territory, I figured it was time to get them running and start growing something. However, for that, we needed water, so we got into the tractor and headed to the store. There, we bought a small water tank for $7,000. We attached it and headed to the old water tower that was not far from the sawmill. Upon finding it, we opened the tank's lid and started filling it with water. Since the water comes from the river, and the river originates in the mountains, I didn't pay a dime for it. Perhaps in the future, we will build our own water tower. When the tank was filled, we drove to pour water into the reservoirs of each greenhouse, delivering 1 tank of water to every greenhouse. After bringing the last tank and filling it with water, we started each greenhouse. We will be growing lettuce. Having completed all the work I had planned and stocked our production facilities with the necessary supplies, now we can relax. If you're interested and would like to see more, just subscribe to the channel and give it a like. See you!